Hello, as promised, on this video we're going from step 23 to step 28. As you can see, there's quite a lot been done. It's quite a challenging build this as well. We've built the exhaust stack and the winch assembly on the back for the back of the cab, and as you can see there's quite a lot in there really. There's an awful lot of little bits. It's all photo etch. There's one piece of plastic down the centre and the two measuring bars at the side are plastic, but everything else photo etch. On the winch assembly, loads and loads of photo etch. I'll put photographs of the whole thing to accompany this video, so in the middle of it. But as you can see, it's really quite complex. There's a lot on there, and some of it is really very fragile as well. Once you get used to doing the photo etch, it's not too bad, but it's getting there in the first place that's the problem. And on the kit they supply, for these winches, this one and this one, they supply bits of cotton and bits of wire and stuff, and it doesn't really look like winch cable, and I guess that once you painted it, it would look even less like winch cable. It'd have bits of fibre sticking out all over the place. So what I've done for these two heavy winches, one either side, I've bought from B&Q basically a piece of 1mm picture framing cable, and although it may not show up too well on the video there, it is actually braided cable, the same as you would get on a steel cable. Only difference is, of course, it's a brass alloy. And for this one, where it states you use a 0.5mm cable, I've taken apart some electrical wiring, and as you can see there were several strands in it. Worked out that 3 strands rebraided together comes to 0.5mm. So that's what I've done. I've rebraided that, and as I say, I'll put some photographs of it on the within this video, so you can have a look at that if you're interested. And that's the cable for this one. The rest of it, once you get used to the photo etch, isn't too hard. I've mashed it all out, as I mentioned in the last video, and I've sprayed all the green, but then brush painted all the camouflage on it. I also masked these 3 cables out with paper before I sprayed it, and then painted them a metallic colour, which is more realistic to the actual steel cables that they would use in the first place. Careful when you're painting it, as you may be able to see on there. There's a couple of places where the paint has clogged up the holes. Shouldn't be too difficult with a tiny bit of wire to knock that paint back through again and make it look much more realistic. All the levers and bits and bobs, it's as you can see, I think that's come out alright. It's not too bad at all. What we've got to do next is, there are some pipes that go, hydraulic pipes that go from here into here, which would supply that winch. Again, Hobby Boss have supplied, within that bag there's a little tiny bit of electrical cable that comes out black. I think it's that one, with a copper wire inside it, and it's not going to look realistic at all. What I've bought for all of the tubing, and there's really quite a lot once I start on the trailer, there's little bits on the unit, on the tractor, silicon tubing, 0.5mm internal bore and 0.25mm wall, external wall on it, so that comes out of 0.75mm obviously, which is what they say you should be using here. Now that tube is hollow and very floppity around, but if you put a piece of copper wire inside it, it will form into any shape that you want it to, so it'll be ideal for this. The lights have still got to go on, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm not putting any of the glass on until I've finished. So there's the tubes and the lights to go on this. There's a couple of blocks that drop into those chambers there, and I'm not 100% sure what they're for, but they will hopefully simply drop into the tops there, and that's where they'll live. These, that's not going in, I'll have to attack it with a file. These boxes here were really quite difficult to make out of photo etch. If you haven't got a bender, you might struggle with that, a photo etch bender. As I mentioned on the last video, as you can see on this exhaust stack, the paint is coming off. Simply by handling it, the paint's coming off again, and I get the feeling that I'm probably going to have to remove some of the paint on that, rub some of it off gently, and then put the primer on that I mentioned last week. This stuff, it seems to make the paint stick far better than painting it straight on the brass. What we've got to do next after that is section 29, step 29, step 30, step 31 and step 32, which is the last one, and that will finish the tractor off. What I'm also going to do from there is go back to section 1, step number 1, and look for any of the areas where I've marked it off as green, which is mainly the lights and things like that. They need to be put on, obviously. All the lights, there is a number of decals that have got to go on, transfers as we used to call them, and of course the mirror assembly on both sides, all the lights underneath the visor there. As I mentioned earlier about the tubes, these tubes here, they give you bits of wire. I did actually use their wire to put those tubes in, as I may have mentioned in a previous video, and it was far more work than it really needed to be, because they're just flopping all over the place. Whereas if you use a silicone with a bit of copper inside it, you can form it to any shape you want. That's about all we've got for this video. There it is again. As I say, I'll put some photographs up on the video itself. I'll turn that around so you can see it like that. Really need a turntable for this, and I'm quite impressed with the way that's come out, to be fair. Any questions or any comments, leave them in the comments area at the bottom of the video. Other than that, I shall see you next time. Ta-ra!